Good morning, everybody. So my plan today is to give you an update on the government's offshore wind industrial strategy. And I thought I'd start with a bit of context about the industrial strategy programme as a whole. The purpose of industrial strategy, it's all about stimulating economic growth, having a long-term approach to supporting economic growth across the UK. The key principles, it's long-term, so it's recognising, and it's about government recognising that businesses need to have confidence in the long-term policy, regulatory, funding framework in order to make their investment decisions. It's about a partnership with business, so government working in partnership with business together to identify what the challenges and the barriers are to growth and what should be done to tackle them. And it's a whole of government approach as well, so it's not just a Department for Business policy, but it's about what all government departments can do through their policies to stimulate economic growth. There's 5 strands to the industrial strategy programme. 4 of them are really horizontal themes that cut across, or they're relevant to most sectors, and those are supporting the development of emerging technologies, improving access to finance for businesses, working with businesses to help them develop the skills that they need, and creating a simpler and more transparent public sector procurement system, and also on the procurement theme, working with larger businesses to support the development of their supply chains. The 5th strand is the sector-specific element, and that's about providing a spectrum of support for all sectors, but for a targeted set of sectors, developing a long-term strategic partnership in those sectors where the government considers that government and business working together can make the most difference. And so there are 11 sector partnerships, and offshore wind is one of those sector partnerships, which we do see as a strong signal of the government's commitment to this sector. So why do we have an industrial strategy for offshore wind? Why is it one of those 11 sector partnerships? Because, first of all, offshore wind is a growing sector. As we know, UK has the world-leading position in offshore wind. It's considered to be the most attractive location for offshore wind investment. We've got a large pipeline of future projects. So the sector is growing, and ministers have been quite clear that they want to see that growth in the sector turn into UK jobs by delivering greater opportunities for a competitive UK-based supply chain. So that's what the offshore wind industrial strategy is all about achieving. So I said industrial strategy is about a partnership between government and industry, and in the offshore wind sector, that partnership's provided at a strategic level by the Offshore Wind Industry Council. So that's the strategic partnership forum between government and the offshore wind industry. It brings together representatives from developers, from the supply chain, from the UK government, also from the devolved administrations, including the Scottish government and the Crown Estate. And its role is threefold. It's about driving deployment in offshore wind, it's about bringing down costs, and it's about building a successful, competitive UK-based industry. Reporting to the Industry Council, there's the Offshore Wind Programme Board, and that's delivering actions to support the strategic aims of the Council. And I know Adam's going to talk more about the work of the Offshore Wind Programme Board. We do see that there's potential to do a lot more, but we also recognise that there are already significant economic benefits that the offshore wind sector is bringing to the UK. We've seen employment in the sector more than double between 2011 and 2013. So now there are more than 6,000 people directly employed in the sector in the UK, and a similar number of indirect jobs in the wider supply chain. We've got local areas benefiting from the investment that's needed to build and operate the wind farms. We've got UK companies, some UK companies at least, that are winning contracts to provide components to the wind farms. And we've obviously also had the great news that Siemens and ABP are jointly investing £310 million in turbine production and installation facilities in the Hull area. So that's kind of given you some context about the Industrial Strategy Programme and specifically the Offshore Wind Industrial Strategy Sector Partnership. For the rest of my presentation, I wanted to give you an update on some of the key initiatives that are supporting the objectives of the Industrial Strategy Programme. So the ones I thought I would briefly cover are the requirement for supply chain plans under the Electricity Market Reform Programme, the work that's happening to increase visibility on developers' procurement requirements, the support that's available for the offshore wind supply chain, and I was going to cover a couple of programmes here, the Offshore Wind Investment Organisation in UKTI and the GROW Offshore Wind Programme, and also the support available for innovation, where the Offshore Renewable Energy Catapult Centre plays a key role. So first of all then, supply chain plans. So here, the aim is to encourage development of the supply chain. Under the Electricity Market Reform, EMR programme, large projects, so that's projects of 300 megawatts or more that are applying for a contract for difference, or CFD, they will be required to produce a supply chain plan for that project. And what the plan needs to demonstrate is that the project will be making a material contribution to the growth and viability of the supply chain, specifically showing how it will meet the 3 assessment criteria that have been set out, which are supporting the development of competition in supply chains, supporting innovation, and supporting the development of skills. Government's recently published draft guidance on supply chain plans, and that guidance includes the assessment timetable for this year. So what we're saying is that projects submitting supply chain plans this year should do so between the 1st and 26th of August to best ensure that they are considered prior to the first CFD allocation round that's expected to open on the 14th of October. The government will endeavour to ensure that the plans are all assessed within 30 working days, though plans that are borderline may take longer to process. And then the government will notify the applicant of whether the plan is approved or rejected in time for them to be able to enter the CFD allocation round this year. All the details are in the draft guidance document that was published at the end of April. And if you've got questions, you can also contact the supply chain plan mailbox and put the questions to the team. Second initiative I want to cover, visibility of procurement requirements. So what we're really pleased to see is that developers and also top-tier suppliers are making their procurement requirements and their timelines more visible to the supply chain, so that supply chain companies are in a position to gear up to compete for those opportunities. So this is happening in a number of ways. For example, the project timelines publication that Renewable UK is producing and has produced with input from developers, and the events like share fairs, and I know there's one at All Energy, and there'll be another at the Renewable UK conference in June, where potential suppliers can go along and they can hear about what developers and the top-tier suppliers want to buy when the timetables and how supply chain companies can compete for those opportunities. I want to mention that there's significant support that's available for the offshore wind supply chain. There are some sector-specific support schemes complementing more generic support for business, and that's available across the whole of the UK. Some are provided by the UK government, some are provided by the devolved administrations, including the Scottish government, and here are examples of the support that's on offer. I want to briefly cover 2 of these because they're the 2 key schemes provided by the UK government, which is the Offshore Wind Investment Organisation, which operates UK-wide, and the GROW Offshore Wind Programme, which is an England-only programme. The Offshore Wind Investment Organisation, that's in UKTI, UK Trade and Investment. What it's aiming to do is significantly increase the level of UK content in the offshore wind supply chain. It's doing that by identifying the areas of the offshore wind supply chain where there's potential for new investment and growth. It's identifying specific companies to target. It's also working with developers as they put together and develop their supply chain plans. Its immediate focus is working with companies that have got significant potential for UK job creation in the near term, whether that's through inward investment or expansion of existing UK capacity. The Offshore Wind Investment Organisation, or OEO, is covering both. And my colleagues James and Katrina would be very pleased to give you more information on what the investment organisation does. These are the current priority subsectors for OEO: turbine OEM, substations, towers, foundations. Those are the components where it's currently focused on securing new investment in the UK supply chain. The Grow Offshore Wind Programme. So this is specifically a programme for companies in England, but there are similar types of support available in the rest of the UK provided by the Scottish Government, the Welsh Government and the Northern Ireland Executive. This is a programme that's supported by £20 million from the Regional Growth Fund to stimulate the offshore wind manufacturing supply chain in England. Its focus is on SMEs, but it does have some scope to support larger companies as well. And the types of support it can provide are some upfront assessment to help a company identify routes to market, targeted consultancy, capital funding, for example, to invest in new plant and machinery that might be needed, and funding for technology development as well. The last piece of news I wanted to give you about the GROW programme is that GROW has been working with the Knowledge Transfer Network, KTN, to have a call for proposals in operations and maintenance technologies. So if that's an area of interest for you, there'll be more information on the GROW website about it later this week. And also GROW and KTN are at All Energy as well. They have stands here if you want to talk to them about it. The final initiative I wanted to cover just briefly, because I'm sure Andrew will talk more about it, is the Offshore Renewable Energy Catapult. And I mention it just because we see it as key to boosting innovation in offshore wind in the UK. It's a technology and innovation centre based in Glasgow. It's one of 7 catapults that have been established and are overseen by the Technology Strategy Board, which is an arm's-length body of BIS. And the Technology Strategy Board's providing £46 million to the Catapult to support its 5-year business plan. I'll let Andrew tell you all the details about the Offshore Renewable Energy Catapult. It's recently merged with the National Renewable Energy Centre at Blyth, so that will bring together NAREC's independent testing facilities with the expertise in the Catapult. So that's a flavour of the initiatives that are supporting the objectives of the Offshore Wind Industrial Strategy. To get more information, do visit the .gov.uk website or send us an email, or obviously you can also chat to me while I'm here. Thank you.